Hello, my bookish besties, and welcome back. Listen, I know that life is short and we only have a limited amount of time in this world, and there is like literally a gazillion books. However, as you probably saw in the title of this video, today I want to discuss a list of books that I am dying to give a reread to. Some of these are books I read a really long time ago, and I just want to see how they would hit me now as an adult. And then some of them are just my all-time favorite, like 6-star god tier reads. So without further ado, let's get into the list. Okay, to be honest, this first one is one I already have reread. I reread Fourth Wing and Iron Flame before the release of Onyx Storm. And this might sound crazy, but I think I want to do it again before the release of book 4. And I know what you're thinking. There are a lot of people who have reread them because they're like, there's so much to remember and I feel like I have to read them. Personally, I want to reread these because I am obsessed with this story. Fourth Wing is like one of those books that like I think about literally daily. It lives like rent-free in my head, so of course I want to give it a reread. I will say when I reread it last year, I listened to the audiobooks just like, as background noise. And that was literally perfect. So I think when and if I give these a reread, I will do that again. But yeah, the story like genuinely never gets old to me. I love it so much. And I'm really excited to give it a read through a third time. I probably will still sob even on my third reread. And genuinely, this is one of those books that I could see myself rereading every couple of years for the rest of my life. At least books 1 and 2 so far. I don't know what Rebecca Yarros put in Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, but I eat those things up. I love Iron Flame. Take your Iron Flame slander and like get out of here, okay? Next, one of my semi-newest additions to this list, I would love to give the Mistborn trilogy a reread, especially now that I have read more of the Cosmere, but also I just thought that this trilogy was so good, and I feel like I didn't appreciate it enough the first time through. Like, it was all 5 stars, but I'm like ready to get back into the world already. And I literally read these earlier this year, like in February, I think. So yeah, probably not anytime soon, but I definitely see these being reread in my future. Also, kind of on the same path, I would really like to give Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson a little reread as well, because that was the first book I read by him, and I definitely did not understand a thing that was happening. And now that I have a couple of his books under my belt, I do think I'd be way better at understanding what the heck is going on. This third one falls into that category of books that I would like to reread because I definitely think I would like it more now. I have reread Happy Place and Book Lovers, which were 2 of my all-time favorite Emily Henry reads. This is usually one that I talk about being my least favorite Emily Henry, and I know there has to be a couple that you probably don't like. Like, that's just, how authors work. But I do think that when I first read this, I just didn't, I just wasn't there yet, I just think I read this a little too early into my reading journey, and I do think that if I reread it now, there's a chance I would like it more. So this is kind of one of those books that I'd like to reread it to give it a fair chance. Next, I'd like to reread this book. It's called If I Die Tonight by Allison Galen. This is actually the very first book I picked up when I got back into reading. I've talked about it before in other videos, but just in case you're new here, I got this in a blind date with a book in Colorado a couple of years ago with my family, and I literally devoured this. And the reason I would like to reread it is now that I'm more experienced in my reading journey, I kind of want to know if this book would still hold up, because as a first book, this book was so good, and it's to this day one of my favorite thrillers I've read, and I really want to know if that was just newbie Adrian talking, or if this really is that good. Oh sheesh, this is a first edition. That's kind of cool. Anywho, yeah, I really enjoyed my time with this one. I should look into this author again, because I actually, like I said, really, really loved this story. Next, I have to put The Unmaking of June Farrow on this list. This is one of those books that, like, I kind of say fundamentally changed me as a person, and I need to know if that holds up. That being said, I am a little scared to reread this because I'm kind of worried it's going to do that thing where, like, it was right book, right time. It hit me because of, you know, the circumstances that I was in, I guess. So I'm a little worried that if I reread this, it's going to lose some of that magic. But at the same time, I'm like, the story is just unmatched. It was phenomenal. I still think it's my favorite of Adrienne Young's books. And I'm really, really happy that I read it. And I really, really want to reread it. So, anyhow. Next, I would love to give 100 Years of Solitude a reread. This is one of those books that I read in high school, like for school. And there's moments in this book that I still think about. And I was in high school like 10 plus years ago, you know? So I really want to give this a reread. That being said, this book, from what I remember, is crazy, which does make me a little scared to reread it. Like, even with, you know, 300 books under my belt now, or whatever, however many I've read, I'm a little worried that this book is still just a teensy bit too complex for me and my little pea brain. But I just want to know, like, now that I'm a reader and I'm an adult, I just think I would appreciate this story more than I did at 15. Next, we have Problematic Summer Romance by Miss Allie Hazelwood. Okay, I will stand on that. This is her best book. I ate this up and I was giggling and kicking my feet. Okay, I had seriously the best time reading this, and I just want to relive that experience. That being said, I think if I did reread this, all the books I just talked about just fell. Anywho, I think if I did ever reread this, it'd probably be in a couple of years, because the story is still really fresh in my brain. That being said, the literal second I finished reading this, I was ready to, like, go back to page 1 and start over immediately. It is so good. Yeah. I'm saying I'm gonna wait for this, but it could be soon. Again, though, I think this is what I like to do with romances that I reread. I like to just listen to them, like, you know, I'm cleaning, I'm cooking, just kind of as background noise. So there's a really good chance this gets moved up on the background noise priority list. Yeah. Okay, next we have The Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, but, like, specifically All In. This was my favorite from the series, so I think it'd be really, really fun to reread this. I also can't remember if I read this before or after I went to Vegas. I think after. But either way, I've been to Las Vegas now, and I do think it would be really fun to reread this with some of my Vegas knowledge. I do think I read this after I went to Vegas last year. Because I think what happened was I was a little scared if I read it before Vegas, I'd be scared. Yeah, that sounds about right. But yeah, I don't know. These are just such fun, fast-paced reads that if I ever need, you know, just like a fun, quirky thriller, I definitely want to give this one a reread. I have such fond memories of it, and I really, really enjoyed my time with it. But like I said, specifically this one. Like, if I only reread one, I think I'd want it to be this one. It was so good. Next, this is one of my all-time favorite reads. This is If We Were Villains. I just love this book. Like, to the point I was so tempted to get tattoos and all this stuff inspired by this book. It truly moved me in such a beautiful and unique way. Like, it hit me in a way that I didn't think that it would. Like, I knew I would probably like it. It has a lot of stuff I enjoy, like dark academia, you know, what's the Broadway that's not musicals? I guess still Broadway. Like, it had kind of those vibes. I went to a fine arts high school, so, like, I kind of understand the academic arts lifestyle, but still, this book, it, like, truly, literally meant so much to me when I read it last year around this time that I'd really, really like to give it another shot. In fact, I loved it so much, I went and bought a whole second copy. Well, technically, I got rid of my first copy, but I was like, yeah, I need this special edition. I don't necessarily like the sprayed edges. They're the kind of sprayed edges that I feel like if you touch them for too long, the like paint comes off. But like, look at this cover. Gorgeous. It's literally gorgeous. But yeah, this is kind of one of those that like, I just think going back to it would be phenomenal. I've also heard that the audiobook for this is really good. So again, it kind of falls into that list of I wouldn't mind listening to it. Which, fun fact, is my favorite way to reread, because if you're listening, like, you already know the story. So if you miss something, oh well, you know? Okay, next I have another Ali Hazelwood on this list. This is Love Theoretically. Before I read Problematic Summer Romance, I would say this is my favorite of hers. But that being said, my copy has water damage and it makes me very depressed. Anywho, that being said, this is one of those books that I'm like, oh, that's my favorite Ali Hazelwood book. Okay, but what happened? I don't remember. That being said, I think I wrote a 5-star review that said this was like the best romance book I'd ever read. I still stand by that. Like, I know I wasn't lying, but I just wish I could remember it. I remember certain parts. Like, I remember her being like the fake dating guy, or the like fake, she's like one of those people that you hire to take on dates. But if I remember right, his brother like hires her permanently, and then they have chemistry. And I remember like the yearning and the tension and all that was just so good. You know, classic Ali Hazelwood phenomenalness. Is that a word? Probably not, but yeah, I don't know. It's just like one of those stories that like I remember loving it, but I don't remember the details. I just don't remember. So I want to give it a reread. I think giving this and The Love Hypothesis a reread would help me really, really cement my Ali Hazelwood ranking. Because I already forgot the word. The Love Hypothesis. That was one of my first books when I got back into reading. And it's still one of the books I remember the best out of the, like, you know, hundreds I've read. I say hundreds. It's like 250, I think, according to Goodreads. But anywho, I still remember the plot of that one so well, and it's about to be a movie, so I do kind of want to reread that one too. Ali, what do you put in these books? Okay, and then another romance that I would really, really like to reread. This is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This is one of those books that I related to so deeply to my core in such an oddly specific way that I would just really love to give this a reread. Like, it made me feel so seen, and yeah, again, it's just one of those like perfect classic romances. Like, I'm not a huge romance reader, which granted, like looking at my pile here next to me, I did mention a lot of romances that I'd like to reread, and I'm sure I could literally pull like 10 more from behind me. And I do think that some of the genre I've reread from the most probably is romance, actually. Anywho, I forgot what I was saying. I think I was just saying that, like, I don't read a ton of romances, but this is one of those stories that has stuck with me in such a profound and positive way that I would like to give this one another shot. Is my face changing weird colors? Our power went out earlier and my computer is doing that thing where it's like, it's just like changing colors. The screen. Let me fix it. I'm sure I could add at least 5 more romances to the list, because like I've already reread The Dead Romantics. I wouldn't mind reading it again. I wouldn't mind rereading Love in Other Words, because again, that's one of those stories that like I look back on really fondly, but now that I have a couple of books under my belt, I'm like, would it still hit the same, you know? The Love Hypothesis, I already mentioned that, obviously. Daisy Jones and the Six, it's one of those weird ones where I've watched the show through 3 times already, but I kind of want to read it again. Let's see. Any others? The Summer of Broken Rules. I've read it 3 times, and I will definitely read it again before I die. Another one I've read several times is The Summer I Turned Pretty. But that one's kind of one that, like, now that I've seen the show, I think I'm over it. Like, I think I'm content. I think Jenny really just, she wrapped it up, and my heart is full. Hello, Adrian Editing here. I realized I didn't mention Throne of Glass or ACOTAR, which are definitely getting reread. Yeah. ACOTAR is one of those that, again, I read when I first got back into reading, and I need to know what I think now. I think it will hold up for me, just because of how much I love the story. I have never related to a character the way I relate to Nesta and Feyre both. And Throne of Glass is just god tier, so that will definitely get reread at some point in my life. Also, Harry Potter. Didn't mention them either. As a disclaimer, I do not support J.K. Rowling, but like many other readers, her books do mean the world to me, and I would really like to reread them one day. At least Half-Blood Prince. I don't know about all 5. Or all 7. What am I talking about? But anyway, let's get back to the video. And then last but not least, Red Rising, obviously. This is my god tier series, my all-time favorite series. Like, I genuinely think it'd be really hard for something to top this. And this is definitely getting reread by me at some point. Probably not anytime soon. Like, a part of me wants to reread specifically Lightbringer. That's book 6. Before next year when the last one releases. The full series, I don't know. I would love to give it a reread, but I don't think I have time to reread it all before the last one comes out. But I would like to reread all of them at some point. Like, that is one of those that's like a non-negotiable for me. Like, this might be my children's bedtime stories. I'm just kidding. That'd be crazy. But yeah, the story just like genuinely has my heart. I think my next tattoo will be Red Rising themed. I love every single thing about this story and this series. And it goes on that list of like, definitely will probably be reread every couple of years for the rest of my life. Like, I can't imagine this story ever not hitting for me. Back in April, I did re-listen to about half of the first book, and it was so good on a reread too. Like, this first book, there's so much that I feel like you just don't understand. But then on a reread, which granted, I'm not saying everybody needs to go read the whole series and then reread it, but if you do, on a reread, Red Rising, like specifically like book 1, goes so hard. It was crazy. Like, there's some big brain stuff going on there, to be honest. But anywho, that's the list of the books I'd like to give a reread to someday. Some of them that I didn't mention, I feel like just kind of like there are books I've already reread that I would reread again. Like, I've already reread Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, The Summer of Broken Rules, The Dead Romantics, Book Lovers, what's the other one? Happy Place. I think I could genuinely reread Happy Place like 10 more times and still love the story. But yeah, what I was saying is some of those didn't make the list just because I feel like for me, they kind of go without saying. Like, I feel like I'm the kind of person that I almost love a book more on the reread, but obviously we don't have enough time to just read and then reread and then read and then reread. Like, being human is so crazy. Like, what do you mean I only have 78 years or whatever the average is on this planet, but people are producing like 75 books a year? More than that. By a ton, obviously. That's crazy. Like, I just want to read all my favorite stories and keep reading new stories and just never let the cycle end. But anywho, all that to say, thank you so much for watching today's video. Let me know in the comments what books you would give a reread to, and if there's any on my list that maybe surprise you if you know anything about my reading taste. I hope this video let you know a little bit more about me, and I hope to catch you in the next one.